Welcome to this tutorial for head retargeting playback using Unity 2018. Basic experience with the Unity interface and OMS Player plugin is expected for this tutorial. We will start with an existing OMS player prepared in our project. You can continue directly from the OMS playback in Unity 2018 tutorial, or start with the example project provided. In addition to basic playback in Unity, clips that have embedded retargeting data can be animated programmatically at runtime in Unity. Let's walk through the process of adding head retargeting to an existing OMS player. So that you can follow along with the tutorial, we have provided an OMS player and clip prepared from HoloEdit 2020.3, named Training Head Retargeting.oms and MP4. Retargeting requires a second object in our scene called a target pose to hold animation edits. In a scene with an existing OMS player, create a new empty game object to use as the target pose object for a skeletal rig. Let's rename this object pose target. Also, for organization's sake, let's group the pose target and OMS player objects under a single parent. We'll create a new empty object called player and click and drag both our OMS player and pose target files under this new object as children. Next, we'll need to create a few additional assets needed for retargeting playback. Let's create a new subfolder at the top level of our project under Assets called Retargeting Data. First, the target pose object requires an animation controller to hold animation. Expand the Retargeting Data directory, and inside of that folder, use the right-click menu to create a new animation controller. Name this object Training Animation Controller. Reselect your pose target object in the hierarchy and click and drag your animation controller onto it in the inspector panel to add a new animator component. Next, we'll need to set up retargeting in the OMS player object. Select the OMS player object in the hierarchy. New to HoloEdit 2020.3 is support for multi-track OMS files. A multi-track OMS contains multiple individual clips, and each can be configured for retargeting and playback separately. Our OMS only has one track, so we'll expand our clip under Clips and expand the Track Config section under that. Set the size value to 1 to expose settings for our only track, and expand the newly created element 0 to see those settings. First, we'll need to set the material override. This determines the material Unity uses to render this track. We'll set this to the skinned mesh material included in the package, and set the tint to white. Locate the skeleton root field near the bottom of the OMS player script's parameter list, and then click and drag the pose target object we created from the hierarchy into that field. Next, click the small gear icon at the upper left of the OMS player script entry in the inspector and choose Save Clip. This will create a new clip named after the assigned OMS file in the root assets directory of our project. If you're using the example data provided, this should be called Training Head Retargeting Track 0.anim. Finally, double-click on the Training Animator Controller object to open the Unity Animation panel. Click and drag your anim file into the node view. You'll see it automatically add a transition from entry to your anim. Once you've added the clip, you can close the window. Skeleton base movement needs to be populated with the newly created clip here. With the skeleton root and anim files assigned, the OMS player should be set up for retargeting. Enable the retarget checkbox in the OMS player script and press play. Playback shouldn't look any different than it did when we previewed it before adding the retargeting information. To animate the skeleton, we'll have to add a script to drive the target pose skeleton. Developers can modify the skeleton's pose at runtime using root motion IK components placed on the OMS player object or by creating a custom script and subscribing to the OMS player's post IK solvers event. For this tutorial, we'll use the included lookat.ik script to demonstrate this feature. The lookat.ik script takes two important parameters, an object to look at and a head bone to do the looking. Let's create an object to demo the lookat behavior. You can use any object for this process, including the scene camera, so that the actor will look at the viewer. For this tutorial, we'll create a simple sphere object we can manually move around the scene. Right-click on your Unity hierarchy and choose 3D Object Sphere to create a new game object. Let's rename that object Demo Target so it's easier to keep track of. And move it a little bit in front of the clip. We'll go with 0, 1, and 1. That should work well for this clip. And for cosmetic purposes, we're going to decrease the scale of our sphere to 0.1. Select your pose target object and press the Add Component button at the bottom of the inspector. Use the pop-up window to add a IK Look At component. Click and drag the target object from the hierarchy into the target field. Next, we'll need to select the head bone. Because of the way retargeting works under the hood, we need to select a bone from our target pose skeleton object, pose target. In the hierarchy, Alt and click on the triangle to the left of the object's name to fully expand its children. Click and drag the head object onto the head field in the Look At IK script. Our actor's head will turn to look at our demo target object. We can click back into the scene panel in Unity and move the object around to see it update in real time. Thank you for watching our tutorial for OMS head retargeting in Unity 2018.